Welcome, champions, to another episode of the Perspektiv podcast. I am Kwame Osei.
My name's Dylan Elias.
And I'm Izzy Castillo.
And this is where we tune the heart of mentoring. Let's go! Hey, welcome to season 2 of the Perspektiv podcast. I gotta say that again. Welcome to season 2 of the Perspektiv podcast. And this season is a champion series where we are going to be interviewing people that are winning in life, people that are making a difference in life, people that are trailblazing in life and connecting in life. We're interviewing people we know are champions. And the first person, actually, before I even introduce her, I gotta say this, because we always forget this, Dylan. If you have liked all our past episodes, if our past episodes have resonated in you in some way, have connected with you in some way, please like, comment, subscribe, share, follow, whatever the platform is. Let's get it out there and let's connect with as many people as possible. So with that being said, Dylan, you want to introduce our guests?
Should we give an intro or a drum roll, or what do you want to do? I mean,
let's do the drum roll and then we do a little quick intro.
All right, Izzy, you warm up?
Yeah, I can go for 2 minutes of drumming, so let's go.
All right. Drum roll, everybody. Okay, in the studio today we have the beautiful, famous Brooke MCMILLAN. Give a hand. Woo!
Let's go, Brooke.
Okay, so I'll give a little intro on why I thought Brooke was an amazing pick for, when we first talked about this, she was the first person that popped into my mind. Besides all the great work she's done over her career as a teacher and being able to see her operate in the classroom the way she does, and all the extracurriculars she's done with the GSA, with the Culinary Arts Club, bringing home banners from provincials, putting all the hours in, like, after to see the kids really have a safe space and in a place that maybe they didn't always think was a safe spot. So that's really important. But on top of all that, Brooke has changed my perspective on a certain topic. I would say the most drastic perspective change I've had in my adult life has come from Brooke, and I didn't really get it at first, and it took a long time. And the way she presents this topic, I've heard her speak about it within her own personal life and within her home, but I've also seen her do workshops about it, and the way she presents it is authentic to her. It's not pushy. It's palatable for, I think, like, the broader audience, and it really changed the way I mentor and the way I talk about food and body image to the kids I deal with, and even for myself. So I thought, I think the world needs to hear this message, and I don't see anybody else really doing it in the way she's doing it. So I thought, like, it's a no-brainer to bring Brooke on to talk about this, and yeah, here she is, man. Here she is. Yay.
Welcome to the Perspektiv podcast, Brooke. You are the first ever guest on the podcast, so no pressure.
Thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be here with you guys.
We're not going to go light. We're not throwing softballs. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I just scared her.
Well, I mean,
You're in the fire now.
Hey,
You know
first
what you
and
signed up
foremost,
for.
let's start off. Brooke, tell us about yourself. Like, who is Miss Brooke McMillan?
okay. Well, I am Brooke. My pronouns are she, her. And I am a human being that is really passionate just about holding space for other human beings in their own journey of self-discovery and growth and healing. And the main ways that I have been blessed to do that would be teaching as a classroom teacher and working with youth, and kind of expanding that out to other programming with youth beyond just teaching every day in a school. And I do that through teaching yoga and being a student of yoga, as well as meditation, teaching and learning meditation. And just, I have amazing family. I have an amazing group of friends. So that also makes up a huge part of who I am, is all of my past and present family and friends and the people that surround me. So I think to describe me would be to describe like the community that I'm surrounded by and that I'm a part of, because everything that I've done and everything that I am has been so informed by the amazing teachers and mentors that I've had in my life, as well as the amazing people that I get to interact with and learn from every single day. So it's really hard to like sum yourself up in a soundbite or in just like the roles that we play, because I think that's often how we do define ourselves or kind of represent ourselves in the world, is by the roles that we play and the titles that we have or the things we've accomplished in our lives. And those are really worthy of recognition, and those are worthy of us being proud of or saying like, this is what makes me me. But at the end of the day, we're all just here learning from each other. And I think I just always want to come from a place of like, I'm who I am today, and tomorrow I'm going to wake up a new person, because this day will have changed me and I'll have learned a lot and grown a lot from this day. So that's I'm ever evolving. So today I'm this person that's sitting here with you guys, and tomorrow I'm gonna be a new person based on this day. So I'm always becoming who I am.
I love that. I love that you brought that like recognition that part of you being your identity and who you are comes from also those influences that you've had of mentors. And it's always good to give back gratitude to the people that have been part of our journey here, and that whole evolving, that you're not just one image, one thing forever. It's fluid. I love that, bro. Good answer.
She really handled that question well. That was a tough question.
Yeah. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper with that. So like, because you kind of told us the things you do, and you don't want these your jobs or the things you're involved in to be the definition of who you are, right? Because you do so many things, but there's a few things you never really talked about. Like you did say you're a culinary arts teacher, you're a yoga teacher, you also do workshops on mindfulness, right? You're a Reiki instructor?
Yeah,
now?
I'm a Reiki practitioner now as well. Yeah.
You're a Reiki practitioner, right? You do a lot of activism in the city of Fort McMurray and beyond with LGBTQ plus. Is it S plus? I always forget.
There's a lot of versions, so whatever one you feel comfortable saying.
So what I'm trying to say is that you have a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
And there's people in this world that have like a couple of hats and they struggle to balance them. You just outlined it correctly in saying that every day you're a new person, which is great. But somebody who's like really struggling to balance their different hats and gets overwhelmed or kind of loses their identity through the different hats. Like, I just want to know like how you balance. You kind of just said it, but maybe you just dive in a little deeper to somebody else that is struggling.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to think about, and for people that are like wondering where they fit, or what these roles are meant to be in their lives, or how they're meant to show up to all these roles and hats that they have to put on. I think first and foremost, it's coming back to your practice of self-study. So really taking the time to sit with yourself and understanding, where is it that I feel called to serve and to be, and where is it that I can use everything that I've learned in my life or experienced in my life to build community with others or empower others. And I think sometimes if we feel those things are forced, or if we feel those things are beginning to drain us, then that's like a really good signal to say, okay, either this is out of alignment with where I'm meant to be, so I can redirect myself, Or maybe it's just there isn't a balance of giving and receiving in your life, because a lot of us are, very giving, very compassionate people. We love to be activists. We love to empower our community and be out there and supports for people. But that also has to come back to ourselves. So whether that's, actually taking time to support ourselves or reaching out to our supports, that's a big part of the balance as well. We can't always give without also receiving, because that's also part of leading by example. Is if you are there supporting others, then they also need to see you as a mentor, as a teacher, as a leader, taking that in for yourself, right? Because that's a big part of that leadership quality, is leading by example. And if we don't have, I was just talking last night about, when do you know it's time to give and when do you know it's time to receive? And I'm now at a point in my life where I know that I have to give to myself first, and I have to get really clear on my priorities first, and then I can give from my overflow. So if you are, you have to, that mindset is so important, because and I learned that by experience, right? For a lot of years, I was burning myself out, and I was, attaching a lot of my worth to my ability to give to others, or my ability to show up for others and be a support system for someone else. And then, that left me feeling really depleted and drained. And then eventually you do kind of start to become resentful, or you lose sight of what your purpose and passion is, and you lose sight of your ability to actually hold that space for others. So I think it's so important to take that time for yourself and your own self-reflection, and know that you don't have to 100% be productive at all times, or 100% be giving at all times. It is finding that balance and that harmony with, anything that you do, but especially in caregiving, and especially in a supportive role. So that's kind of how I interpret that question, is really getting clear on where I'm aligned and where I'm called to be, and realizing I don't have to be everything for everyone, realizing I don't have to wear all the hats. Even if it's something I'm passionate about, I can explore that passion, but I don't always necessarily need to speak on that passion or teach on that passion, or, position myself as a leader, because there are amazing other people that have those gifts. So that's a chance for me to bring those people in to offer their wisdom. So even if I'm passionate about something, it doesn't mean I need to pursue it to a level of making that part of who I am, or what I'm here to offer the world. So, there's a lot of different layers to that. But at the end of the day, I would say, take care of yourself and reflect on where you truly are called. Give from your overflow, as opposed to giving before you feel you deserve to receive. And know that you don't always have to pursue something that is an interest or a passion as a job, or as your main platform. You can just enjoy engaging with that just for yourself as well.
Wow. I don't know about y'all, but that one hit me. That one hit me. That hit home. I felt that. Thank you so much for that answer.
Well, even when you asked the question, I was like, I wonder who he's talking about. He's like,
that's something I struggle with that.
My friend, he has a lot of hats, right? And he's having trouble balancing. I'm asking for my friend.
It's not for me, it's for my friend.
That's something that me and Brooke were talking about the other night, was about mirrors and being of service. And I feel like that message that you just brought there, even just Kwame asking that, sometimes we don't know, people around us actually are mirrors to something that we need to learn about ourselves, or take in more about ourselves, right? When you talk about the burnout, and then you are working with kids, and then you have kids who might be a little more testy, they might be the lesson for you to be hey, scale back, invest in yourself, because you're getting out of line. When you're out of line, those things always come up the most. Those lessons are coming up. They're becoming more stronger. It's telling you that you need to pivot to something towards where your goal is. You might not even know the goal, but it's bringing you towards that, where you need to be. And I just want to know, Brooke, what does being of service, it sounds like this is a being of service topic right now from what you're telling me, because with your roles and then recognizing, like, when you're aligned, recognizing when to empower others if you don't want to be in the forefront, but how to support people still. So what does being of service, how does that resonate with you or mean to you?
I think at the end of the day, that is how I always ground myself, is how can I show up and be of service today, in whatever way that needs to look. And I think for me, that just opens up so many possibilities of myself to make an impact, or for myself to expand the idea of how I can make an impact. Because again, in wearing all those different hats, maybe sometimes we think, well, unless I'm focused solely on this topic or solely on this, field of study, then, that's my only area of expertise. So I think being of service is something that we can all take on, and then use our own gifts that we possess or our own life experiences that we have, and then make that our service in the world. So each individual person is going to have their own purpose, their own gift, their own way that they connect to other people. And, that's kind of our life's work, is to find that and to understand what that looks like. It's not like we necessarily always know that, and it can also grow and change with us. But for me, an underlying truth is always, how can I be of service to others in the world? And how can I be of service to people that, they're lacking service. They're lacking people to either create space for them, or people to acknowledge that, they're worthy of care and worthy of compassion. How can I be of service to those that are underserved? And maybe people that really don't have, even access to know how to accept service, or how to accept and receive, because then they can also be of service to others in their community. So it's not just about like, well, this is my mission, I'm going to take this on. It's, how can I be of service to others, so then we can all then feel empowered to go out and recognize our gifts and make that our service in the world. So I think that, what I do in the classroom every day, I can show up, and I can either show up to it as a job, I can show up to it as, a teaching profession or a vocation. I can show up to it as, like, let's just have fun cooking today in culinary arts class. But if I ground everything I do in service, then I'm showing up and looking for the ways that I can serve others that day. And really, the beautiful part of cooking is, like, that's a very literal connection to service. In serving food and sharing food, like, that's a very direct link, which is why I love working with food and cooking. But really, anything that we can do, we can come from that frame of mind. And in serving others, it's also, we take ourselves out of it. So by putting that focus and emphasis on just looking at the room around you and seeing what those needs are, and then being able to respond to those needs, you don't need to come in an expert already. You just need to be with the people that are there, right? You don't need to have all of this, built up image of yourself, or built up like, these are my strengths and this is what I'm going to do and this is my plan, because you can show up and the people in the room, that's not the plan for them. That's not going to empower them, or that's not going to fit. So we always have to be willing to go in with that, egoless perspective of service and being with whoever's in that room with you.
Wow. Okay.
Yo,
Brooks
this
is
is
dropping gems this morning.
Yeah.
I'm feeling
Jeez.
inspired. Me and Brooke actually did the GSA together for a while, and we are twinning a little bit today, which is really funny because we never even planned to wear denim jackets today or black shirt with rocking our pins. But Brooke has always been, I met Brooke and we realized we both had a passion for supporting the LGBTQ2+ community, because we also identify with the community and we see the need to be seen, heard, and valued. So something that when I hear those three words, and I have seen you go and do that and continue to do it because we're still in that active stage of doing it right now. What are those three words? How do those three words, like when you're talking about your the grounding and like your passion for these things, like where did that come from? Where did you see the importance for people to be seen, heard, and valued in your capacity?
So everyone wants to be seen and everyone wants to be heard. I think that's just a fundamental human need, to be seen and be heard, and not in the sense of, adoration or people like needing to believe what you're saying and like amplify whatever your message is in the sense of being seen and heard, but just seen for who you are, seen for your authentic self, and have someone hear what you have to say and believe that what you have to say matters, and also that what you have to say is your truth and that there's no debating that and there's no gray area. We just can accept that that's your truth, that's your experience of the world, that's listening and hearing someone and hearing something that might challenge your perspective of the world or challenge what you know about a topic or what you know about yourself, and then valuing that person, like valuing people for who they are, not valuing them for what they can do for you, what they can give to you, what they can produce, but recognizing each person has an inherent value and an inherent right to exist, and also to exist as their authentic selves. So through, our work with GSA, that is just, again, the core of why that's so important, why GSA's Gender Sexuality Alliance or Gay Straight Alliance, depending on who's defining that acronym, that's the reason why they exist, so that students in schools can start to build community with each other and see themselves represented in their schools and create safe spaces in the place that they spend the majority of their youth and childhood. Because a lot of the world now, we're seeing a lot more representation, but there's still a long way to go. And historically there hasn't been a lot of safety or representation for the LGBTQ2+ community in many places, not just in schools, but if that's a place where we are spending most of our lives and learning about the world, learning about ourselves, coming into our own identities, and then we leave after grade 12 and then we're supposed to go forth and make our impact on the world. If we never had a chance to actually be seen and heard and valued in those spaces, then we leave and all the supports kind of drop away and we're left kind of still struggling, figuring out who we are, or where we may fit, and not feeling empowered that our voice matters and that we should be proudly standing as who we are authentically. So that's the main purpose of our GSAs are to do that, is to give those students a space to say, this is who I am, and this is what my story is, and this is what my truth is. And sitting around a group of people, adults, like their teachers and their peers, and saying like, yeah, we see you and you are so valued for who you are, and we're so proud of you for being who you are, and you matter, and you are not just like welcome. A quote that I love about inclusivity is, inclusivity isn't just you're welcome here, or you're allowed to be here. It's you're valued for being here. Like, we recognize you being your authentic self and you being seen for who you are is incredibly valuable for all of us. Like, your presence is valued. So it's not just like, yeah, we'll make some space for you. We'll tolerate the fact that, you're here and, we don't quite maybe understand you. We don't need to understand people to value them.
Facts.
Big facts.
I love that. I love that. Sorry, I just had to take that in, that whole, your presence is valued. That is hard. That is magical and beautiful. I'm just sitting in that right now. Then it's good to take a moment because, yeah, you gotta let it sit, because That's really powerful, and it does make a lot of a difference. And we talk about being present, how important that is, how that's a gift. But if people aren't experiencing that in the world, it's a sad world to be in. So I just want to give gratitude to you, Brooke, because I've seen you grow and even see these youth come in, and then they're experiencing that for the first time in high school, guys. In high school, you know, like they went all this time not feeling seen, heard, and valued, but in the GSA they go there and they feel that and get to be recognized. So I'm getting a little choked up about it. I don't know why it's hitting me like that right now, but I think it's because of that importance and how much that makes a difference in people's lives. And yeah, just grateful to have you in this world.
Oh, thanks, Izzy.
Brooke, so I've, since we're on this topic, we'll stay there for a second. So I've known you, I think I've known you the longest out of everybody on this podcast right now.
Yeah.
I've known you since 2012. Yeah. And, you know, we started teaching together, right? We started teaching together at Holy Trinity. Shout out to Night Station over there. When I first met you, you were straight, right? When I first met you, you were straight. And over the years...
Was that a question or a statement?
Okay, when I first met you, did you identify as straight when I first met you?
When you first met me, I was not out to everyone in my life or out at school. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, that's
bad.
Okay.
So, but as the years have gone on, you came out, you know, and I see now like so much pride and like strength, and you're empowering youth to share themselves, share their identity with people. What do you say to the youth or a child that is struggling right now with their sexuality and worried about coming out and worried about how people will perceive them if they come out? You know, a kid that's in a household where, you know, it's really religious, you know, and there's certain things that are set in place, and, you know, there's some families where somebody comes out, like they'll disown them. What do you say to somebody in that situation?
Yeah, that's, you know, I'm glad that you asked that, because I think that is a question that a lot of people wonder, and that's a question that I answer a lot with youth that I work with, and that I see a lot in GSA, or just, you know, with students that can't even come to GSA because they can't risk being outed, or they can't risk even identifying with the LGBTQ2+ community because they're not in a safe home environment to do that. So it is definitely, and even something that teachers and other colleagues have asked of me to be like, how do we help support these youth? So it's a really important question, and it's really important to, as someone who works with youth, to understand how maybe you can support a student in that situation. And, you know, just to even go back to myself and my story with, you know, how you just said, you know, like when you first met me, you know, I was, you know, straight, and that's not how I would necessarily identify with it, because I have always been queer. I identify as a bisexual person, and I think a lot of that can be easy to erase, because if you're bisexual and you are, you know, with someone who is of the opposite gender, then you never would really know necessarily, because that's kind of just taken as the heteronormative relationship. So I think that's something that's a really great thing to shine light on as well, is that happens a lot in the community, is different like hierarchies of how you identify or how you present your relationships. And the truth is that for a long time, I didn't see myself represented. I didn't have the language to identify who I was or how I felt inside. I didn't have role models or mentors growing up, and there was no visibility in a small community to, you know, understand myself, or even if I did have an understanding of myself, it was associated with something that should be secretive or should be hidden because I didn't see it and I didn't see people being proud of it. So I was like, well, I guess maybe no one's really talking about this or being proud of it. And it's just something that I should keep to myself to keep myself safe, right? So a lot of that is self-preservation, and a lot of that is for lack of representation in the world to see yourself and understand yourself, and then be able to outwardly express that. Because there's multiple ways of coming out, or there's multiple ways of learning about your sexuality or your gender. And first and foremost, it starts with yourself and understanding and recognizing that within yourself. And then how would you like to express that to the world? So in that way, that kind of ties into the next part of the question is, how do we support those youth that are struggling with identifying as their authentic selves because they may be in unsupportive home environments? And that's where, GSA comes in. That's where supportive, caring adults come in that may not be necessarily in their immediate or extended family, because we can't spend all of our time and energy focusing on like changing a home environment that might be unsupportive, because that is going to be a journey that family is going to go through, or those people in that child's life are going to go through, and that's their journey. We can be supportive if we're included in that by them, but at the end of the day, we can just scale our support to that child and empowering that child or youth, or even young adult. So my advice or my suggestions are always, if a child comes out to you, or if they're expressing how they're feeling inside, is to thank them and honor that it takes a lot of courage to be yourself in a world that's not set up to uplift you and accept you, and recognize that you are valued and worthy, because there is a lot of hatred and discrimination that still continues to exist towards the LGBTQ2 plus community. So in itself, realizing that like this is who I am and I'm not content to hide that part of myself anymore, that's an extreme act of courage, even if it's just admitting it to yourself and to close people around you. So acknowledging that and empowering that person to know what you're doing in being yourself is so courageous, and I'm so proud of you. And you should be very proud of yourself. I hope you're proud of yourself. And then building that sense of self, so surrounding that person in other supportive people that are going to support who they are. So whether that's connecting them with GSA, whether that's just simply asking, like, do you have any other supportive people in your life that you can talk to about this, that you can be your true authentic self around? In GSA, that is a huge part of what we do, is just have that support where you can come, you can truly step into yourself. And maybe throughout your school day or at home, you have to put those masks on as self-preservation. But once you get to GSA, or once you're around your friend group that you're unconditionally accepted, you can just exist, and like, wow, what a weight off what a weight off your shoulders to just exist as who you are and not worry about being judged or experiencing violence towards you. So I think understanding like it doesn't need to be the whole environment around that child we need to change all at once. It's how can we slowly start adding in those extra supports. So making yourself an open, available, and safe person for youth to talk to. Acknowledging that what they share as their truth is their truth, and supporting them in sharing that, and not denying that or not questioning it, just acknowledging that that is your truth and I support you and I believe you, and making sure that they know they have people that actually care, that they make it to school every day. And then those peer supports is so important, and that's where the term chosen family comes in with the LGBTQ2 plus community. Chosen family is something that maybe if you don't have a supportive home family or home life, your chosen family are those people that you get to choose to be your family. So that is the people that you know you're going to get that unconditional love and support from, and that you can be safely yourself with. I could go on for a long time because, again, it's a huge topic. There's a lot to address. Like, you have a safety level, you have a belonging level, you have, your own sense of self and identity. And, it's hard to distill answers into like, this is what you should do, or like a formula, because at the end of the day, everybody is going to have their own story and their own experience. So even just sitting with someone and talking to them and asking, what supports do you need right now, and how can we address those needs? And that can look, it doesn't need to look huge scale. It can be like, I'd just really like to come and talk to you once a week and just like watch RuPaul's Drag Race or something. Like, it can, or I'd really like a pin or a bracelet, because that makes me feel like, I'm expressing a part of myself that like I know is there, but maybe not every single person knows what that means. But I feel like myself just wearing this, or having friends that I can, talk about certain topics with. It doesn't necessarily always need to be like a macro scale of change and support. It can be all those little things. And I think, again, just bringing it back to one-on-one conversations of, what do you need in your life? How can I be a support to you? And I'm here, so keep checking in.
I was going to say too, this is also like a universal theme. Like everything you just kind of said there, if you're dealing with someone who might not be in the LGBTQ plus community, a lot of those points you just said, you could easily copy and paste it into pick one, you know what I mean? Yeah. Universal themes. And that's what I love about what we're doing here, is like there's so many universal themes that it just wears a different mask. But when you get behind it, it's what you were just talking about, giving someone a safe place. Maybe, because we're always going to be battling at home. Not always, I shouldn't say that. Often we can only do what we can at school, or we can only do what we can at the youth center. There's always going to be the factor that they still have to go home, and that's out of our control. So like everything you just said, like it's so important. Okay. Can we pivot topics? Are we ready? I feel like we're getting close to okay, only because I feel like there is a certain topic that we wanted to touch on with you that I really don't see talked about anywhere else. I think you, and when I say see talked about, I guess it's brought up in memes, but I haven't really seen like a spokesperson in the way you've done it. So I really want to hear your voice on this topic more than anyone's. But you gave me a unique perspective on relationship with food, relationship with body. Can you maybe take us to how you got to that place? Why is this something that you advocate for so hard? And where did your passion come from for this topic? And then maybe, hopefully we have time to get into some of the nitty gritty of it after that. But yeah, maybe just so people know a little bit because I know I kind of surface touched on it, but what am I talking about, and what are you passionate about in terms of people's relationship with their bodies and food?
Okay. So that's something that I've made it a huge priority, because I do have a really beautiful gift to educate about food and nutrition and cooking. And I also come from a background where I have had an eating disorder. And I guess I'll just, preface anything that I'm going to say with like a trigger warning if you are someone that is currently struggling or does have a past with disordered eating, and that's just a topic that's not supportive for where you're at in your healing or in your journey right now, then feel free to skip ahead to the end of the episode. But yeah, I think it's just important to say those things when we talk about really sensitive topics. But I'm passionate about this issue and this, topic because, for one, we can't really talk about food and nutrition without talking about our bodies and our relationship with our bodies. And we also live in a world where so many messages are built around controlling our bodies, controlling food, messages that encourage us to feel, shameful for the food choices we make or the ways that our bodies look or take up space in the world. And a lot of, the information that's out there is really harmful towards people. And it doesn't encourage a positive relationship with our bodies or a positive relationship with food. So I think sometimes when we simply only focus on nutrition or only on physical health or even just on, food and exercise or lifestyle as a means to appear a certain way, like an aesthetic or appearance, a lot of those times those things are kind of all packaged together as like, what is a healthy lifestyle or what does a healthy person look like? And so my, lived experience with an eating disorder and my lived experience as someone that does work in nutrition and food and has a background in all of these things, I kind of have a unique privilege in the world to be able to speak on these things. And I do also come to this with a lot of privilege in like how I show up. Like, I'm a white, cisgender, able-bodied, thin person. So even for me to be able to have the room to speak on topics like body image, my voice is heard differently than many other voices. And that's not because my voice is more important or my voice has better things to say. It's simply that we have a culture and we have a society where we have a hierarchy of whose message gets to be heard the most and the loudest, or who we take seriously and who we think is an authority to speak on health and wellness. And in reality, if you ask someone what does healthy look like, you're going to get a different answer from every single person. And our health is composed of so much more than just our physical health. And it's composed of so much more than just diet, exercise. So that's part of what I educate youth and I educate adults on any chance that I get to speak, because I think a lot of people have a perception that because I enjoy nutrition and I enjoy cooking and I'm, a yoga instructor and I look a certain way that, okay, I must follow this routine and this diet plan or this exercise regime and etc. And it's just very limiting to offer people the only way that you can be healthy is to eat these certain foods, eat this amount of food, exercise this much. And our bodies are so much more than just something to control or something to manage or something to shrink. And our body image at the end of the day, that's how we show up in all the spaces we find ourselves. And it's our relationship that we have with something for life. We're going to have people in our lives that come and go, but we always will be in our bodies. And our body is our container for our spirit, for ourself. So in educating people on body image and in just talking about our bodies, so much of it is about shrinking that container or managing it in a way that's very controlling. It's about, a lot of those messages that like, well, you would be happy and fulfilled in your life if only you looked like XYZ, or if only you could lose XYZ. And what if we just treated our bodies like a friend? What if we just had an unconditional relationship with our bodies that's rooted in support and rooted in love and really acknowledges that we're the caretaker of our body. And we don't need to rely on anyone else to give us the rules or give us all of the ways that we really need to take care of our body through our life, we can actually develop a relationship with our bodies and communicate with our bodies what actually feels the most health supportive for us.
And that's, I think, where it changed for me, because, again, I was always looking at certain athletes' diets. I was looking at certain athletes' workout routines, and I wasn't listening to what my body was telling me about what I was eating, whether this food made me feel sleepy in the morning if I ate it, or whether this food made me feel energetic in the morning if I ate it. I was never paying attention to those things until you put that idea in my head to listen to me about what I'm consuming. And then, like you said, you don't necessarily have to follow this because it builds itself, and then you follow your own. And that was a big realization for me. Another thing I just wanted to bring up, this was something that I saw recently. Excuse me. There was a certain individual I was dealing with who had lost a lot of weight during COVID due to depression, mostly. Sorry. But I was with that person when someone else walked in the room, and they commented right away. They were like, "Whoa, you've been working out? Like, you lost a ton of weight." And then that person, who is blunter than I would say the average person, looked at them and said, "Yeah, I've been depressed. I haven't eaten in 6 months." Which, I don't know, a lot of people would have that response. A lot of people would probably stay silent about it. But that was a big, something that you had always talked about, commenting on someone's weight. We always think, don't call someone fat, that's a no-no. But if someone's skinny, go ahead and tell them good job, you know?
Yeah, that's so important that you brought that up, because it goes back to language and how we communicate about which bodies are valuable and which bodies are not valuable. Or, again, this hierarchy of appearance. And we really can't tell someone's health just by how they look. You cannot tell someone's health by their outward appearance. You cannot tell their health by the number on the scale. And that is so important, and I know that because I've lived that, right? Like, similar to the story you just shared, at the points in my life where I was the most unhealthy mentally and physically, because I was in the middle of an eating disorder that was, completely consuming my life, that I was getting the most praise and most compliments for how I looked, how, people were so jealous of how my body looked, or thought I was so attractive, or what are you doing? Like, give me your secrets. And when we comment on people's bodies in that way, like, first of all, it's not necessary. No one else's body is any of our business. And you never know what you may be reinforcing by making a comment about someone's body. Whether that person is skinny, whether that person is fat, whether that person all of a sudden lost a bunch of weight, gained a bunch of weight, whatever the comment needs to be, or even just complimenting someone based on how they look. That's the challenge that I love to give myself and I love to give other people, is next time that you're going to compliment someone, or next time that even you are complimented, just bring an awareness to how often that compliment is solely based on someone's physical appearance, or congratulating them on some sort of change to their body. Because that is a culture that we also are part of, is, congratulating people on either an arbitrary genetic feature that we've deemed is more attractive, in our own society and culture, or congratulating them on, losing a lot of weight or something. That's something I commonly see, and encouraging that. And really, if people knew the science behind that, if they knew the implications behind that, they probably would think twice before doing that. But we've actually just created a culture where that's a way that people know that they can get praise and validation, and that's a way that we've started to focus on how to uplift people. You know, if somebody posts a before and after photo, instantly it's flooded with congratulatory messages. You're so amazing, you're dedicated, you have so much willpower, like you look so great. And again, it's like this person has so much more to offer the world, but we've just narrowed what they're capable of to simply micromanaging their body and what they eat to create some sort of transformation. There's so many transformations you can go through in your life that, you know, you may not have a dramatic before and after photo, but are equally worthy of celebrating, or they are worthy of celebrating. I firmly do not celebrate weight loss transformations or before and after photos, because it does send a really damaging message out to people that I would rather compliment you and I would rather praise and uplift you for all the other amazing things that you do in the world and the ways that you share yourself with the world than something that's just a system meant to change your body when your body is naturally going to change anyway. And if we just had a relationship with our bodies that we appreciated it at every step of the journey, then we wouldn't need to torture ourselves in order to receive that validation for others that, you know, somehow we are doing a good job in the name of health, right? There's so many other ways we can focus on our health.
I was going to comment on the before and after photos, because I think people miss what happens, especially on social media. Once you've kind of described to me, again, I feel like everything that we say has layers to it. But once you describe to me kind of to understand what an eating disorder can look like there's extreme and then there's down here, but those are all different variations. I see it now in the kids I work with. I would say almost 100% of the conversations that we've had around food or image, like everybody. And the more disturbing conversations I have is with like a girl who's 11 years old, asking me how she can lose weight because she gained weight over the past year. And it's just, well, first of all, I'm like, you grew a foot. You're obviously you gained weight. You're growing into a human. That's called normal living. But the fact that she's not even paying attention to her height, she's getting on a scale and seeing that number increase, and whatever she's seeing on social media, that just automatically equates the number on the scale with like bad, negative. I'm doing something wrong. And like that's what we're always like pumping into Instagram and TikTok. So without even realizing how her body's developing into a teenager, like it's just how far does this go down? Because I know it's, you know, there's girls who are much younger than that experiencing the same things. But
and it may not also be just girls. Like this can be like anyone, because I think often like people narrow it to being a female that only suffers with eating disorders, but we never hear about like the other side of it, a different gender. And I do want to bring that up because as a female who sees different, and I see a lot more focused on females because this has been highlighted as like the people who suffer the most with any type of physical views on themselves, but we never talk about like how males can also be experiencing that and how it just looked differently, how things look different for different people.
And
just because Dylan, I heard you just speak about that, but I also know you work with a lot of
and it's funny how me and Kwame are sitting here and Izzy's the one who brought that up, so good point. But I had a big realization with that later in my life, because I think there is a part that maybe, I mean, we played football at a very high level, and when you're in a certain time period in your life, it's not necessarily about body image, but it's about training, and it's about, you know, Performance, yeah. And I came out of high school 144 pounds. They're not going to let me on the field. I can't go on the field because it's a safety issue. Like, I need to put on mass to protect myself in that scenario. But again, that's a small time period in your life. So after that, how does your brain flip over into the regular world? And I remember our friend Jermaine, he's now adjusted to the lifestyle he's living. He's like, I don't need to train like an athlete anymore because I'm not one. And then that's the first time it hit me like, oh yeah, I don't have to eat a crazy amount of food. I don't have to gain weight anymore. I still train because I like it. And there's a part of like eating and recovering your body, but I don't have to eat like an animal. I don't have to constantly be trying to gain weight because I'm not an athlete like I was. I'm a normal person. And then that was like the first time that really like made sense in my head, because for a long time that was just ingrained in my brain about like, gotta get bigger, gotta eat, gotta get bigger, gotta eat, since, you know, I was like in grade 10. So that just like gets embedded in your head for so long.
I mean, I think there's a lot of freedom in recognizing that your body is going to change as your lifestyle changes, as you age, as your circumstances change. The messages in diet culture and in the media are like, preserve your body in this one form. Like, stay the way that you looked when you were in high school or university. Everything is focused towards a youthful appearance, or we don't value necessarily the same beauty of an aging body and honor that has so much, you know, worth in seeing, right? It's very much like you need to stay the same size or continue in this pattern that you were used to when you were at a certain stage of your life, when really our eating patterns and our bodies should be flexible to meet the environment of our life, to meet the circumstances of our life at one time. It's not, you know, we're in it for the long game. We're not just in it to have, you know, a month or two where we're really hyper focused and then all of a sudden the rest of our life we're going to be the picture of health. It's a long game, and we are all having that relationship with our bodies is lifelong. And so that's going to mean lifelong figuring out, well, what works for me at this stage of my life? What makes me feel healthy at this stage of my life? Okay, I recognize I look different, or I am a different size or shape at this time of my life than I was back then. So, you know, what does learning to love myself at this stage of my life look like? And what does learning to appreciate my body feel like at this stage of my life? You know, because again, those things can be flexible and change as the nuances of your life change. I think of pregnancy as a great example of that. How much do we see targeted towards individuals who are pregnant or who have babies? And then again, just, you know, I don't even need to say anything. We all know the messages that are surrounding, you know, people who have babies' bodies after that process happens. You know, it's very rarely about celebrating that body that just created a human life and brought it into the world and now is caring for that life and the sole source of keeping that life nourished. It's very much targeted towards, well, get back to whatever you looked like or weighed before that experience, even though your life has dramatically changed forever. You've been through this huge experience, but where are the messages that are so, like, that is so beautiful and sacred? Why are we not honoring that body as opposed to saying, well, now it's time to make that a project to, again, control and try to fit into this very narrow standard of beauty that exists?
Facts. Hey, shout out to all the moms out there. Celebrate yourself. Let's go. Hey, so Brooke, you've given us so many gems. Like I learned a huge lesson that early in this conversation already, with regards to what we were talking about before. You know, me assuming my assumption is not your truth. You know what I mean? That's what I took. I took from that. So I just want to apologize for what I said earlier on before. But we're at over an hour right now. I'm worried about my battery. To tell you the truth. So so this podcast is about mentorship, right? And through mentoring, we're making a difference usually in the lives of the various people who we come in contact with, and that's going to be a theme for us for this podcast. So we have a question that we want to end off each podcast, each episode of season 2 with, and that is, with everything you've been doing, like in this world, how do you know that you are making a difference? Like, what does making a difference look like? How do you know for certain that you're making a difference? Can you tell us?
I know that I'm making a difference when I can see my youth that I work with, or the people in my life, when I can see them standing in who they are authentically and proudly and sharing their gifts with the world, and knowing that by leading by example and by showing up as my authentic self and giving of myself and just creating those spaces where people feel encouraged and people don't feel judged or shameful for being who they are. When I see other people living that out, that's how I know I'm making a difference. And that can be with youth, that can be with family, that can be with friends. It doesn't have to be changing the whole world. It can just be as simple as the people you interact with day to day. And when you see people feeling so empowered to be themselves and then actually living that, and you see people creating things based on their own calling and putting those out into the world, like, that just makes me feel so proud of that person, because that's what they're meant to do. And so my impact, again, is like, I look at the community around me, and are there people pursuing their calling and doing what they're meant to do in the world and feeling like unapologetically themselves?
Yes, girl. Yeah. Oh, Brooke.
Brooke, thank you so much for everything you shared with us. I know our listeners and viewers are definitely gonna appreciate this and gain a lot of value and insight from everything you said. If you want to get in contact with Brooke, can you share your social media?
Yeah. Well, I have an Instagram account, but it's private just because teacher life, you gotta set those boundaries.
Email?
Yeah, email. I'm always open to like chat with people, provide resources and support. Like, I know I didn't really share detail like information and resources, but I am more than happy always to connect people with any supports for like body image, eating disorder, GSAs, like anything. I would love to help support. So my email is Brooke, BROOKE.McMillan. I guess I don't need to spell it. You can probably post it, right? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just used to like talking to like really my email. Like, no, just put it there. Okay, my email's brooke.mcmillan@hotmail.com. And I also have a blog that I used to write, and a website that is not super updated anymore, but I've kept it live because I did post a lot of articles and resources and my thoughts on kind of my food philosophy, body image, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. And so I've kept that alive for anybody that may benefit from it, that, you know, comes along the internet and finds it and may find some help and resources from that. So it's brookemcmillan.com. And yeah, that's how to get in touch with me. And if you're interested in diving a little deeper into those topics, there's a lot more information, a lot more resources on that website, or I'm happy to share as well.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna have to have a round 2, part 2 at some point. I feel like there's so many things we didn't get a chance to talk about. Yeah, but hey, this has been a great episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you took something from this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, share, and let's share this message with everybody. All right, Dylan, take him with the outro.
All right. Well, that's episode 1 of season 2 of the Perspektiv podcast. But this is just our perspective on mentoring. Thank you, Brooke, for tuning in. Thank y'all for tuning in. And see you next time. She tuned in.
I showed up.
No? She tuned.
She showed up.
She
Yeah.
tuned.
Yeah, she tuned.
She tuned.
Okay, I thought you meant like she's tuning in, like she's watching. No, this is...
All right. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you, Brooke, for tuning
Yeah.
in. And
Press stop.